Hey class, Prof JC here, and I am looking forward to this video. I'll try to make this as quick as possible. I know these videos, I get a little long-winded. I love these things that we talk about. It would be so much better if we were in person and we could have these freewheeling conversations. If you're ever in a class of mine, an actual class, you will find that we sit down and we just have conversations, and especially about this communication, we would just communicate together and talk about communication. Hey, here's what I want to talk to you about today, and this is very personal to me. It's the importance of learning the other person's story. Learning the other person's story. I want to share this with you briefly. I came out to California in 19, oh my goodness. I'm aging myself here. 2005. So I've been out here about 18 years now. And when I came out from a very conservative home. Now, I'd spent time in the military. I did 4 years in the Army, so I wasn't green. I wasn't, wet behind the ears or anything like that, I had lived, I'd seen the world, literally, but I still had, and if you've ever been in the military, at least 20 something years ago, if you've ever been in the military, you know that at least when I was in it, had a very conservative view of the world. So I came from a very small town, about 29,000 people there, and a church on every corner, very conservative in how they see the world. And so I came out to California. I mean, my parents on the stand next to their chairs in the living room where they sat, they had books by Pat Robertson, Jerry Falwell, and there were a couple other names that always came up. But this is where they got their news. 700 Club, if you've heard of that. Maybe you haven't heard of these things before, but if you look them up, you'll see what I'm talking about. Very conservative view of the world. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it is what it is. So I come out to Southern California with this view, and it's, again, I'd been in the military. I'm pretty open. I land at the school where I'm working at the school, and there's a lot of different diverse staff and diverse, students. And it's a school where it's actually a school for kids who've kind of gone through some hard times, like troubled kids, ADHD, all this kind of stuff. Well, I work in the front office. I'm one of the administrators there at that school. And so I get to know the staff. But again, I've got this conservative view of the world. And there's this person there that she seems okay, but I kind of keep my distance from her. And I'm just going to be transparent with you about the story. Early on, I found out that she was gay, LGBTQ. And that made me uncomfortable at the time for whatever reason. I wasn't mean to her or anything like that. That's never been my MO. And even before that, I had friends who were gay. I had a roommate in the military for a little while who was gay. And I actually went to he wanted me to come out to his coming out party in DC, invited all his friends in. And so I did, but I still had this view, right, in the back of my mind. It wasn't very accepting. And so anyway, this story happens, this situation happens at this place, at the school where I'm working. And I'm finding myself just kind of I'm kind of divided with this person. And then I begin to watch her and I begin to realize she's an amazing human being. And I begin to watch her with kids, and I'd hear what other kids would say about her and parents would say about her. And everybody had great things to say about her. And then we put on kind of like our spring dance or whatever. And I was kind of in charge of putting that together. And she came with her partner, and I got to shake her partner's hand. I got to, see her. And it was the first time I was like, you know what? She's actually kind of cool. Well, I knew I had all these emotions and feelings inside of me that I had to figure it out. And so I don't know what made me do it, but I stopped by her office one day and I just said, hey, I mentioned her name, and I said, hey, is there a chance that you and I could, talk sometime? I've got some questions. And so we were able to sit down. It was like a week later or something like that. We sat in her office. And I remember it was after school when we decided to meet, because it was the only time our schedules. And I thought it would be maybe 20, 30 minutes. It turned out to be a 2.5 hour conversation. We closed the place down. And I still get chills talking about this, by the end of the conversation, she had tears in her eyes and I had tears in my eyes. And here's the deal. I was able to learn her story. I was able to learn what she values. I was able to learn who she was as a person. Okay. Now, this is not a conversation. I know we're in a faith-based university, so I want to be careful here. I'm not trying to push any views on anybody. Okay. So this is not a conversation about pushing views on you or making you think, you have your own views, and this is not a class that, that we're here to talk about that. But for me at that moment in my life, I needed to become a more inclusive and understanding person. And that conversation was the vessel, the vehicle that led to that. And how it started was I got to learn her story. But here's the deal. She also could tell how I was feeling. I didn't have to say anything. She could sense that there was something. And so she had her guard up around me. She knew that I was kind of faith-based and all this stuff. And so we both got to talk about our stories. And by the end of it, we didn't walk out of there. We were best friends prancing on the beach together, anything like that. But by the end of it, we walked out with mutual respect and understanding and love. And I would dare say for myself, acceptance, and saying that I really love this person. I like this person a lot. And that led to a whole bunch of other just changes in my life and thinking and learning how to really get to know people. I can tell you stories about when I was up at college. I did my undergraduate at UCLA. So I would commute back and forth from San Diego to UCLA. And there was one night I took a class, and it was with, it was a class where there were Jewish people in the class. There were Arabs in the class. They were who were Muslims, and then there were Christian. There was a small group of us who were Christian. And at the very end, somebody asked the question. I said, "Hey, do we all want to go out to lunch or something?" And it was funny in that class. Well, it wasn't funny, but it's just how it happened. In that class, the Jewish people sat on one side, the Arab people sat on one side. I remember somebody asked a question one time, and it was it wasn't a dumb question, but it was a question about the Jewish Arab kind of their conflict and stuff, and asking why they don't hang out together. And it was funny. The whole class said something like, no, the Jewish side and the Arab side, and you have, 3 or 4 of us Christians in there. Well, somebody had suggested, how about a group of us go out? And so I ended up sitting there. I'll never forget this night. I remember sitting there in I think it was an Ethiopian restaurant in Los Angeles. We're all eating with our hands. That's what you do in an Ethiopian restaurant. And we're sitting around this table. Remember, it was a circle table. We were outside, kind of on a patio, and we're having this conversation. And there are Christians and Jews and Muslims, and we're all sitting at the table, and we're learning about each other's religions. We're learning about each other's faiths, and we're learning about what we think about each other. But it's in a conversation. It's over food. It's over drink, and it's not a judgmental conversation at all. It was amazing. And I remember walking away from that conversation, and that blew my mind as well. And I got to see people differently. Here's the point I'm trying to tell you. We're talking about this idea of difficult conversations. One of the most important things that you can do in life is to learn other people's stories. You want to know how somebody is the way they are in this situation, whatever you see right in front of you right now, it's because of their story. And if we as people, as human beings, don't take time to learn somebody else's story, I promise you, maybe some of the views and judgments you have, even that difficult conversation, that could even change when you get to know what somebody's story is. Why are they always late to work? Well, figure out what their story is and hear what their story is. I could go on and on about this. Here's the question I want to ask you, and I want you to reflect on this. And this is really a simple one. As you're thinking about your own journey, is there somebody that you need to sit down with right now and that you need to hear their story? And here's all I want you to do. I just want you to make a commitment in this, and I want you to make a commitment. So I want you to write out, okay? You don't have to write the name of the person. You can if you want to, but you don't have to write the name of the person, but you can say, I've thought about this and so. And then I want you to tell me why you need to hear some of their story. You don't have to tell their name or anything like that. And then I want you to write a date. By this time, I will have made an appointment to meet with this person and just ask questions. You don't have to get in there and talk. You don't have to talk about yourself. Just ask questions. And if you need help with that, feel free to call me one-on-one, and I'll talk to you before. I'll coach you through that if you want to. I'm just so excited about this, and I'd be willing to have that conversation with you and give you some good questions to ask. But that's what I want you to do for this assignment. Tell me about a person that you need to have an uncomfortable conversation with. Why do you need to, I'm sorry, not an uncomfortable, why do you need to hear their story? Tell me about a person you need to hear their story. Why do you need to hear their story? Why is it important to you that you hear their story? Then I want you to write a date. By this date, I'm going to reach out to this person, and I'm going to have that difficult conversation with them and hear their story. Hey, everybody. Hey, thanks so much for listening. We're in the beginning of the end. And this is the hardest part of the semester I have found for most students, and even for staff and faculty like myself. It gets a little tougher because we're almost to the end of the year and it's almost time to relax. But hey, stay in there, keep fighting the good fight. Let's end strong. I look forward to your responses and to seeing what you have to say. Take care, everybody. I'll see you in the next video.